Well, my full name is Garth Sparling Webb. I was born in Midland, Ontario on December the 10th, 1918. And very shortly after that, my family moved to Calgary. My dad was a school teacher, and I lived in Calgary. I grew up in Calgary. I was still in Calgary when I joined the Army. At the end of the school year, I went and joined, and I joined with the understanding that I was joining to be trained as an officer, and I went to Gordon Head and learned how to be an officer in Petawawa and then overseas and reinforced the 14th Field Regiment. I spent 3 or 4 months in Gordon Head and then 3 or 4 in Petawawa. A couple of days before we left, they had us interviewed and they had representatives. And I was annoyed. I said, where the hell, there's nobody here from Calgary. And so the Canadian press guy interviewed me. And so I was most amused because one of the quotes a guy gave me overseas was from a French newspaper, like Quebec. And it said, Je vous reverrai à Berlin, criait Lieutenant G.S. Webb. So I told them how we were going to win the war. My temperament and my nature was such that I was sure that I would be better and more content as an officer than to start out and go through the ranks. And so, with the opportunity through university, officer training to go that route, that was my plan, and there was no question, because I got in right away. And we went to Brockville, and a group of us were sent out to the west coast to Gordon Head. And we had a good time there too, learning to be officers. We had a lot of fun. We used to go to Vancouver every weekend and come back on the late ferry, just in time. Well, it gives you an idea of what condition we were in, because we'd browse in Vancouver on the weekend and get back there. First thing Monday morning, we practically had to run to get on parade, and then we had a draft, went overseas on the Queen Elizabeth. This is the whole pitch of our story in the Juno Beach Centre. I mean, the story we're trying to tell is exactly that, is how Canada became a nation because we all got together, like our little mess, and before we went on D-Day, we had 2 or 3 from Winnipeg. We had from across the country, And in the unit, we had everywhere. We do now, We have reunions there all across the country. And the whole story we're trying to tell is how when war was declared, we were guys in Calgary and guys in Vancouver and all that across the country, but not together. And by the end of the war, we all knew each other and we had come together and all that. We were keen, and then, of course, when we found out we were going to be involved in D-Day, we got pretty excited, and we were busy, learning these tracked vehicles, which we had never had, and how to drive them and how to waterproof them, and we were keen. We were down at the docks in Southampton, and we knew what was going on. There wasn't any reluctance. We were scheduled to go on a landing craft tank and to shoot these guns. I've always said it was the Grey Cup, the Stanley Cup, the World Series all played the same day. I'm not only there, but I'm playing. I think I was aware of the responsibility of the position, and I wanted to be good at it, and I got away with it. We were good. Of course, I've always said, when the war ended, the general attitude we had was that the British were best on defense and Americans were best on offense, and we were best on both. So we weren't the typical Mickey Mouse vision they have for Canadians now, and I'm not sure it's more than a myth that the media write about, and even now. We were loaded onto the landing craft for several days at Southampton. We fired from the craft while our schedule was H+90, we were to land. We fired while the first guys landed, and we turned around and came back in, and we landed. So we were an hour and a half after the first ones. And it was bedlam, and we went off into, I don't know, I guess a few feet of water, but not far from shore, and we didn't have any trouble. Oh yeah, it was a chaos, but it didn't. There again, I was too busy. I didn't have time to go looking around. CPO, who was in charge of finding us a gun position, he met us, and he led us, and we went, with 2 guns and my vehicle, we went to this, where he took us. We were getting the line to give to the guns, to our 2 guns, and we were sort of lying around out in the field where they started blowing up the guns. And we had 4 sitting there, and the first 2 got hit. Obviously, there was an 88 out there somewhere, and the first gun we saw blew up, got hit. And then the second, and by the time they got to ours, which was the third of the 3 that got blown, our crew all got off. We carried all kinds of ammunition and everything for the infantry, because we're here we are, support. And so these damn things went up like you can't believe. And so those 2, all the guys on the crew were killed. Our crew by then got off, but this gun still got blown up. But this one, we backed it out and got away, and so it was pretty nerve-wracking. And then our vehicle and our 1 gun, we went and met our other guns back at the churchyard, from where we proceeded to go to a new gun position and get direction. John Leslie was he was our adjutant, and then they made him a troop commander just before D-Day, and he was out with the infantry. And anyway, his tank had 2 nets. It had the net, the internal net for around there, and then the regimental net, so that we could hear him. And then he had also instruction to his driver, and he was on the wrong one, and he's telling the driver to get the hell out of here, and can't you see that thing over there, and really yelling at him. And of course it's coming over to all the guys at all the gun positions, who are all laughing like hell at him. We were pretty conscious of the battle, the Carpiquet battle, because we had guys wounded and killed and all that, and we were very conscious of firing a very heavy density firing day. And then as it went on with Con, we were pretty close to the action. Simmons came up with a special scheme to attack at night with these things, are carrying infantry and infantry walking and other vehicles and all that, and that was the thing at night. And it was tolerably effective, I think. It was certainly been analyzed by war historians all over the place. Anyway, in the meantime, we went back to 25-pounders, in which were like our right arm. We knew them, and we were very comfortable with them for the rest of the war. I never paid much attention, but I think it was something like maybe 15,000 yards, which would be 7 and 8 miles, I guess. I think we were more like 4 or 5 miles most of the firing we did, of which there was a lot. It was fascinating for us to go wandering around after they cleared the Germans out and looking at all the dug-in stuff they had. It was very interesting. Bill Quinn and I went out that night and started wandering around, and it was like they talk about in Afghanistan now, eh? They had underground and guns and placements and all that. And we went by there, and then we were in the Scheldt, and the Scheldt we were all so waterlogged. That's how our div called themselves the water rats, because we literally had to winch in and out of every gun position while we were there, which was all right. We had such a good time in London, for instance, and toured in bars and what. We met everybody. Eh? Like they always say, tonight we live because tomorrow we may die. Well, that was a known fact. We didn't know. When the war was going to end, it was going to end for several days. And nobody wants to do anything and say we don't want to get killed on the last day of the war. Of course, this is what the objective of our Juno Beach Centre is, to get the flavor of the way we were then. Now, we all had one objective: to win the war. We were all on the same side. We worked at it. We were keen. Everybody was of the same mind, and it was pretty simple, straightforward. We trusted each other. We liked each other. We were proud of our country, proud of the service we were in. Still are. Yeah. Made a man out of me, eh? I guess I was a kind of a loose cannon in ways. You get responsibility pretty fast when you're in charge, eh? So I think all that stuff I learned helped me forever, eh? In all my endeavors. Children and even grandchildren come and say, well, how come you never told us about the war? Well, you never asked, eh? That's the basic answer.